Welcome to my latest painting update. This week I've mostly been painting buildings. As you can see, these are resin buildings that used to be made by PMC, and you can now get them from Caliver Books. The moulds are quite old, however, and there are lots of lumps and bumps on them that shouldn't be there. However, they're done, and I'm pretty happy with them. They've been sitting there looking at me since last summer. I'm sorry for the wobbly cam, but I don't have a big enough room to get them in focus if I put the iPad on a stand. So here you can see them all, and a more character eye view here. So I've got 7 sort of medieval style buildings and 1 thatched one, which is to add to my Dark Ages village. I didn't have a blacksmith, and I think the one at the back here, this one with the doors, is quite Napoleonic in its aspect, so that's got multi uses. But these could be used for rural English towns for my Cthulhu game, medieval fantasy. They're pretty good general purpose buildings. They do all come apart. They're in separate sections. I don't tend to use the insides of buildings like this. For role playing I'd use floor plans, but if needed they can all come apart. See if I can show that without really wrecking the picture. There we go. So they've all got separate levels. There you go. So this week mostly I got a huge bugbear off my back and finished my medieval buildings. The buildings weren't the only thing I painted. I also painted this rock. This rock is part of the series of big rocks I did in my very first painting update at the beginning of the year. That time when I went round finding the rocks to paint them, I assumed I had 10, so when I found 10 in various drawers and boxes I stopped looking. Imagine my surprise when I found an 11th one when I was resorting my drawers. So he's been brought up to date, repainted to match my table and the other rocks, and there we go, 11 large rocks from Poland. I also painted some bodies. Now these are little resin pieces from First Corps, and I bought them because I wanted something to represent dead bodies in fantasy games, dungeon games, exploring games. So these are generic, which is why I've just painted them brown. They're as you can see, they're dead Dark Age warriors, and as you'll have spotted immediately, Greek horses. Yes, there's a difference apparently. Anyway, but in the game they could represent a dead orc or a dead adventurer, or maybe just an unconscious woman or something, a lost child. So they're just generic markers. I've got little body cutouts that I 3D printed, like you get on a crime scene, sort of like 3D chalk lines, but they were a bit modern. So for a very small investment, I've now got some markers that can represent one or more dead animals or one or more dead people that you find in dank and unpleasant dungeon rooms. Brilliant. Not content with just buildings and bodies this week, I also had time for a little bit of rescuing of the older figures. These are some elemental pillars that I made over 25 years ago now, and because they're a bit top heavy, they originally had very wide plastic hard bases, which I've torn off and replaced with some much nicer MDF round ones. So it makes them look a lot nicer, I think. That was very quick, hardly worth mentioning, but there they are nonetheless. The great wizard Remus is there to show scale. These were all made with tissue paper soaked in PVA, which is a very nice technique for getting wrinkled texture for the fire and the... I noticed I didn't know how to paint fire back then, and the colours are reversed, but it's elemental, so that's fine. The earth one is Basetex with some little stones stuck in it as well, and they're very effective, I think. As always, thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.